We continue our dialogue today with Vergennes Chief of Police George Merkel about the epidemic that is ravaging Vermont and its effect on local law enforcement. So what would you say would be some law enforcement solutions to address this crisis, maybe that our legislators could enforce or at a local level?
Well, law enforcement works as a bigger part of a process to address drugs. I mean, we deal with many different facets of that. So, for instance, I like to, and other people have explained it, kind of like a spokes on a wheel. You've got the prevention piece, you've got the treatment piece, and certainly you've got the law enforcement piece. And if all of those spokes in the wheel are not equally as in effect or supported, you've got a problem. The wheel isn't as strong as it should be. And from our aspect, when we, for instance, for a small municipality like Vergennes, we did not have a drug unit, so we started our own. And that in itself is a challenge, but I had the raw material there with the personnel and whatnot, and the support of my local community and the city council to do that. But it's a challenge. It's dangerous, and it takes a lot of work and a lot of training.
Right.
But I sent my officer off to the DEA school. He went to the state school. I assigned him to the drug task force for the state. And through his training and experience, he came back to the city, and we've done around. Now, we've done, over the course of a long period of time, we've probably made over 200 and some odd arrests, some minor and some fairly large. But it's the money that is involved. I mean, everything relates back to the money. It takes a lot of money to run a drug task force. You need specialized equipment, you need vehicles, you need the people who are trained and experienced, and then you need buy money. And there was a time that we were running $50 or $100 of our own money to enable our officers to go in, and it was called a buy bust. You go in, you have a informant, the informant goes in and provides the money to the seller, comes out, and then we go in and grab the guy.
Right.
And I always put my fastest police officers doing that transaction because they had my money. But my city manager was doing the same thing. But eventually we evolved into a better process, and that was making a number of buys, 3 or 4 buys. Right. And then we were able to grab people.
So what you said is really, really critical here, that when we're dealing with the opioid crisis, there is definitely the medical aspect, the rehab aspect, but law enforcement plays a very, very critical component, and that we need funds and we need legislative and political support for that.
Right now, and I don't want to speak for my state police brethren or the feds, but anybody that you talk to will tell you the same thing. We do not have enough officers doing this work. What has happened is there are so many people selling drugs and there's so many people using drugs that these specialized units will only, I wouldn't say they will only, but more often than not, they're going to go after the larger dealers. But that doesn't help small municipalities like mine. If I've got a guy who's selling 100 bags or 200 bags of heroin in the city or around the city, and it's not just in the city, but around it, then I've got to have the same resources other departments or other units have. So that creates a problem. The State Police Drug Task Force is challenged each and every day because they don't have enough people to do the job. Likewise, the feds don't.
Right.
So when you've got, like I say, small municipalities, they will always try to help you, but you need to have a constant effort. Going in and making a buy, it looks great for the paper, it looks great for the TV, but they come back. Right. You've got to have that constant pressure. And I knock on wood, we have these guys are keeping a pretty low profile around us because we're on them, but they're still there. We know they're there. The drugs pass through our towns like they do through every other small town or large town in the state of Vermont. Okay. And it costs money, so you have to have buy money. That buy money, once you provide it to a seller, that money's gone.
Right. Okay. Well, thank you, Chief Merkel.
Yeah.
Next week, our dialogue with Chief Merkel continues, where we will look at the impact that marijuana legalization and policies like safe injection sites are likely to have on local law enforcement that is already overwhelmed with the opioid epidemic.